TVPN.
Sissy's Taco Bar Pop-Up is back with more hours and more days. Check them out at their new pop-up location at The Woodlawn, located 1200 East 79th Street. Sissy's Taco Bar offers authentic street tacos infused with international soul. Now every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at The Woodlawn from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. New vegan tacos have been added to the menu too. Visit sissytacobar.com for more info.
Welcome to Inhale, Exhale, you guys. We're your health home girls, Dr. Tanksley and Danny Time. We are being joined today by a guest, Samantha Allen, who's going to work with us today about attachment styles.
Preoccupied, anxious, that's more so a child that comes from a background where the parent or the caregiver was kind of all over the place. You didn't know what you were going to get, so you were clinging to them when you did have their attention, because sometimes I might have it, other times I might not. Because that, it creates an anxiousness in the child, whereas when I get your attention, I want to hold on to it. I want to make sure, so I might cry when you leave, or I always want you around. I'm craving your attention. You know, mother-father relationship, the father passed away, now the mother is over busy, she's working all the time, she doesn't have as much attention as she once had for the children, so now this created an anxious attachment style. Those adults grow up more, considered more clingy in relationships, always wanting attention or feeling like I need to make sure we're okay, fear abandonment, fear that we might be breaking up or you might be leaving me alone, so I might check in with you more often, I might call you more. I just need to be assured that everything is okay with our relationship. That anxiousness part is the anxiety of the relationship, of always thinking something might be going wrong. If I called you, you don't answer. Are you upset with me? What did I do? Let's figure this out. Let's work this out. You're always kind of on edge about where your relationship will go.
You get a piece of paper, write down the event, the thought, emotion, and then logic. So in this case, say that your boyfriend didn't text you back. Okay, that's the event. What is your thought? Oh, well, he doesn't care. What's your emotion? I feel unworthy. What's the logic? Well, maybe he's asleep. So you gotta do that. That's addressing some of the symptoms. But overall, you want to engage self-love and self-discovery, right? And just kind of reprogramming your subconscious.
Yeah. Ooh. I miss your kiss. Oh, your kiss is one of a kind. It feels so nice. Girl, you do it right. I miss. Oh, girl, you don't go too fast. You take your time. Just how I like. I miss. Hey, oh, your kiss it, then I'm drifting off your love. Keeps me floating, girl. I miss.
Friends, happy Sunday and welcome to another episode of Inhale, Exhale. I am your host and we'll soon be joined by my co-host Danny, but right now I am your solo host, Dr. Tanksley, one half of the Health Home Girls, and we are so excited that you could join us here tonight on What's in It for the Black People Media. We're going to take a moment. I know Danny's not here, but we still gonna breathe, because to all my deep breathers that's out there, you know this is the moment that we inhale and exhale. And so I just want to take a minute for us to go ahead and do that and get ourselves centered, because that's what we do on this show. So I hope you had a couple of moments this week that you were able to relax and to take in some of the weather and the seasons as they change. I am always excited about the transition from the fall, winter over to the spring, and all of the transitions of the seasons. And I think that's one of the reasons I live in Chicago. So I am excited tonight, you guys, because this is a topic that we're going to talk about that is near and dear to my heart. Before we get to it, I do want to do the little housekeeping that we always have to do. So like the broadcast, share the broadcast, bring or tag a friend and bring them into this conversation. It's going to be great. Join What's in It for the Black People Media so that you can get not only this show, Inhale, Exhale, but all of the great lineup that we have throughout the week. And please go over to the Inhale, Exhale group page and feel free to join that group as well and to interact and engage with us throughout the week as well. So again, like that button, share that button, all those kind of things that, keep us going on social media. But friends, tonight, I am so excited to bring my guest up. He is going to join me a little early while Danny is en route. And that is going to be my guest, Benjamin Fonseca. And what we're going to talk about tonight, so I'm going to bring him over and pop his name up and take him off mute. And just so y'all know, because I told y'all I only bring y'all dope people, right? Benjamin and I have known each other for over probably, 20 years, Benji? I said I wasn't going to call you that on TV. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Mr. Benjamin, we have known each other for a very, very long time. And so I'm really excited to bring him up and have this conversation with him because we share a passion in medicinal cannabis.
Correct.
And this is the week of 420. And so for everyone who engages and or has ever had any interactions with cannabis, you probably know about the renowned 420, right?
Correct.
And so because of this, I do a lot of work in the integrative medicine space, a lot of work with herbal medications. And so I get a lot of questions about medicinal cannabis. And so I wanted to have this conversation so that we can debunk some myths and give some information and help individuals know how they can connect in ways outside of traditional healthcare systems, right? So I'm glad that you're able to join me today, Mr. Fonseca.
Thank you so much for having me out today, Dr. Audrey.
Look, we all formal and stuff.
I know.
Look, we used to just be Audrey and Benji, right? Now we're like Dr.
Correct.
and Mr.
Dr. Tanksley. I know. Time flies. Time flies.
Yes, it does. And goals and dreams come true, right?
Correct.
Yes. So before we get started, Benjamin, I want to just kind of talk a little bit about 420, even before we even get into, who you are and what you do, because I think there's a lot of people wonder, like, why even is 420 a thing? Why is that a day that is known for people who use cannabis around the world?
Well, typically 420 was actually known that was a radio dispatch code initially, which a lot of individuals kind of associated with that because again, cannabis was introduced at a time where there wasn't as such many laws or restrictive laws we have today. Now there's been a lot of great changes, but back when cannabis was actually legal and used, as well as it is used today, that was the code that was later developed for when cannabis.
And I heard a lot of things, right? I've heard definitely that it was a radio dispatch code. I've heard it was like a police code. I heard that it was a group of I think called the Waldos that was out in California, and 420 was the time that they would meet up and all different kind of things. But
it
whatever
became a universal code. It was I think in my sense, it was more like a big, just a universal code for cannabis. It just
Absolutely. And I'll say, even from me, my own personal experience with the time or the term 420,
Mhm.
it was probably not until when I went to college, right? And
Really?
it was like my roommates down the street were like, or down the hall
Hmm.
were like, it's 420. I'm like, so what? What does that mean? And
Hmm.
then I was
Hmm.
indoctrinated into what the 420 time meant.
Yeah, I
So,
was
yeah.
indoctrinated a lot under different circumstances. However, again, why I'm here is to speak on the medicinal aspects of
Ex-
it.
Exactly.
Um, the Many years ago, it was just so taboo. I mean, no one really would even think about trying to medicate even their children with cannabis and so forth, because it was just so,
Like you said,
again,
taboo.
taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good segue, Ben, because I do want
Mhm.
individuals to know why you're an advocate in this area and who you are and how that came about.
Well,
So let's take it all the way back. Who are
all the
you?
way back.
Yeah,
So,
all the way back. Who are you
well,
and
all
how
right,
did you get in this
great,
space?
not a problem.
Mhm.
Well, again, my name is Benjamin Fonseca. I am a cannabis patient and advocate. I started my foundation a couple of years ago to the lack of representation of people with disabilities in the cannabis industry. Um, Essentially, we are owned and operated by people with disabilities for people with disabilities. The Canvas program in our program is one of the many services that we offer. However, cannabis was something that back in the day was just so taboo that my family was just as educators. I grew up in an educated family. All my family were all teachers and administrators with the public school system. So this is something that was just never allowed or talked about within the schools, and again, it was just a lot of misinformation. It has truly helped me in my progression and my rehabilitation over the years. My primary diagnosis is actually juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and I was diagnosed at a very young age, at the age of 2. And JRA is a progressive disease that does affect the immune system and all internal organs as well as major joints, and
It's
due
considered
to
an inflammatory
medications,
arthritis, right?
correct, and due to past medications, in which actually killed my growth hormones. So I'm a smaller stature person. I'm not the same average size person my age. So yeah, my all my growth hormones were all just killed off by certain medications and trial drugs
And I'm
many
gonna
years
just
ago.
interject real quick there, because
Hmm.
typically, Benjamin,
Hmm.
in medicine, when someone is diagnosed with
Hmm.
juvenile rheumatoid, because it is an
Correct.
inflammatory disorder, we use medications like steroids,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Immune
Correct.
modulating medications, things that for a
Correct.
child, as you mentioned, can stunt their growth, can alter their hormones and
Correct.
cause other bone diseases and other conditions.
And having the disease at such a young age, and back then, I mean, we don't have anywhere of the information we have available now for JRA. But they at the mere age of 4 years old, I was up to 100 milligrams of prednisone. I mean, who really
Wow.
does that nowadays? I
Yeah,
mean,
seriously, we
prednisone
don't
is
even use
just
that in adults, right? Right.
correct. Steroid prednisone is a famous steroid used by many individuals, not just JRA, but especially with asthmatic patients.
With the
So the
lupus,
puffiness.
with a lot of autoimmune
Correct.
conditions, absolutely.
Correct. I've noticed once the hospitals knew of the dangers it was actually conducting. Um, it was really suggested that I try cannabis.
Okay.
And
And
it
how
was
old
just,
were
again,
you?
everything. I actually began the cannabis regimens at the age of 10.
Okay.
At the age of 10. By that time, the drugs had taken such effect. There's some pictures on my Facebook page as well, on how bad it was. But by the time I was only 10 years old, I only weighed a mere 40 pounds.
Wow.
So I had the entire chest cavity showing. I mean, everything I ate just came right back up. I had no appetite, nothing. Um, and doctors actually considered a feeding tube at one point, to actually get nutrition into me.
Mm-hmm.
My family, refused that. They knew that they can do a lot better with whatever they were doing, and um, I finally got the help that I needed. Later on, thankfully for an uncle of mine, and
Okay.
showed me
I
the
was just going
ways
to
of.
ask who introduced
Hmm.
you to medicinal
Yeah,
cannabis.
I
Yeah.
was introduced by an uncle, which in turn a lot helped me, alleviate a lot of the pain, and with that in turn, as well, it helped with appetite, and with more appetite, I was able to put on the weight, put on the muscle, and become more independent and lead a more successful life. I spent 10 and a half years in education, before I decided to actually retire early due to disability and start my own thing. I truly wanted to help more individuals with disabilities that were essentially being taken advantage of, within the cannabis industry. And that's what really got me tired, that so many of these individuals have a lot of great good in their hearts to try to help individuals. But again, the, the disabled community were just totally left out.
Absolutely. Tell me more. When you say that the cannabis industry was essentially kind of had left them out,
Hmm.
or were taking advantage of them.
Correct.
I think so many times individuals, when they're looking at medicinal cannabis, number one,
Hmm.
they often don't know who to talk to, because a lot of the
Correct.
medical providers are not either well
Hmm.
educated on it, or their healthcare
Correct.
systems have essentially um, not
I
allowed them
I
to
gravitate towards doctors that really want to learn more, or that are willing to actually listen. A lot of doctors, I mean, by all means, I mean, I admire a lot of physicians for the dedications and the hours spent in obtaining that education and that career. But a lot of doctors, I feel that they've they've done enough. They chose not to want to learn anymore. They don't. They're just closed minded and just really sad. Um,
And I'll say,
but
just as well
this,
too, a lot of institutions, physicians often work for institutions that sometimes are not are rigid and aren't
correct.
able, so they'll have an institutional policy. So no
Hmm.
matter how open minded your physician is,
See,
if they work for
correct.
that individual institution, they may be limited as
Right,
well
and I
too.
can see it on as far as the insurance aspect side of it, and all of the legal ramifications that come of it as well.
Hmm.
But being smart in how you medicate yourself and have a good consultation with somebody that is more knowledgeable on
Hmm.
of the subject is really key. Um, Knowing your body's limits. Everybody's different. Everybody has different tolerances, different, so forth. What's right for one isn't right for the other. But
Absolutely.
again, I prefer living a lifestyle that is not as harmful that as a lot of other pharmaceutical medications can do.
And I definitely want to, in a couple other follow up questions, ask you about that
Hmm.
lifestyle. But before we get to that lifestyle, I want you to
Hmm.
tell me a little bit more about how you engaged with it, because you were 10 years old. And at
Yeah,
that
correct.
time, just knowing you, there was no legal cannabis in Illinois at
Yeah,
that
we didn't
time.
have dabs or edibles back then as much. I mean, well, yeah, we made edibles, but they weren't as now. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. You don't have the half the technologies that you have now with the equipments available to make processed butters and oils and so forth.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was just as how I was introduced was just smoking it. I mean,
Okay.
people weren't cooking it and weren't doing any of that back then. Um, that's how I was introduced. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a
And
harsh
I
way
will
to
just
say.
say, from the research that is
Hmm.
available, which is, fairly limited, but definitely there's
Hmm.
some in this space for chronic pain, especially, which is a lot of what you're dealing with that inflammatory pain from arthritis. Um, you know, I am a huge believer in the medicinal cannabis, other
Hmm.
like the oils and those kind of things. But smoking
Correct.
actually, in some studies, definitely shows that we know it's the fastest route.
Hmm.
And so it does help with pain, especially, right?
Correct.
and
So
as you mentioned,
anytime you
nausea
heat
and
the
appetite.
flower in itself, anytime you do, it changes its chemical, its type. It's why heat is so good, especially for JRA. We love heat. We love anything warm. So
Hmm.
when you just like the flower itself, when you're heating it, when you like making edibles, you're changing that flour to make it more intense. So when you're heating it, it's giving that more. I forget. I have to pull my notes up, but it's changing its molecular structure to
Yeah,
a point that it's going to
it goes from the A, right, to the
correct.
decarboxylated form.
Correct. So
Okay.
it's that's
So like your
exactly what
THCA will get decarboxylated into THC. Your CBDA will
correct.
get decarboxylated into CBD, right, and make
Correct.
it a different form. Absolutely.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I got you.
Totally. Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell me, so in the ways, so you were 10 years old, you started using medicinal cannabis, you were
Mm-hmm.
able to gain some weight, you were able
Gain some weight.
to obviously become a Whitney Young Dolphin because that's
Correct.
where we met and
Yeah.
how we know
Class
each
of
other.
'96. Yeah.
Absolutely. Even though, I was a couple years under that, but that's okay. You're gonna
Yeah.
put
I
me
know.
out there. And so then when you went forward, so you finished college, you became an educator.
Mm-hmm.
After that, then decided to go and advocate for individuals in
Correct.
this space. Tell me how you got to that. Why did you feel like people with disabilities were being left out, or individual medicinal
It's
cannabis patients especially were being left out? Because about that
essentially
time, Illinois was starting to get the laws, right?
correct. Illinois was just picking up, but what really got to me was, and it was happening quite often, that there was a lot of abuses within the program as far as the caregiver aspect. Right now, as it stands, that caregivers are your only ones that can go out and purchase your medications on your behalf, as the
Okay.
patient's behalf.
So I'm gonna stop
Um,
there just because some people don't know the process. I'm gonna just fill in the process
oh,
real quick, but
okay,
I want you to jump back into that. So
not a
when you
problem.
become a medicinal cannabis patient, you go
Correct.
to a physician who's
Mm-hmm. A
hopefully is
license.
your
Yeah,
physician that's caring for you, but or a physician
yeah,
that's going to become a part of that larger care team. They
correct.
complete a certification for you that you submit to the state.
Correct.
You get a card, and then you're a medicinal cannabis card holder.
Correct.
But you have an
Correct.
option during that process to name someone as your
Correct.
caregiver. Okay, what does that
Correct.
mean?
So essentially, that's exactly what it means. It's a caregiver, it's somebody that's going to care for you and making sure that it's somebody that can go out. When we had that shutdown, the pandemic shutdown, we weren't allowed to go anywhere. Everything was shut down, but the cannabis industry was deemed an essential business.
Hmm.
So we needed individuals to go out and shop for us.
Okay,
We weren't having delivery agencies available just yet. Services aren't for deliveries aren't available for this type of program.
in
They're
Illinois.
in the works, but in Illinois, correct. In Illinois. And other states, yes, but we're talking about Illinois,
Yeah.
right? But again, so we needed individuals that can go on our behalf, because not everyone can get out and shop and everything. Like, there's a lot of people with disabilities that don't have access to technologies and so forth that, I've been blessed with.
Mhm.
Um, So yeah, this gives that individual that power to be able to go out and purchase on that individual cardholder's behalf. However, there's been instances where many patients' allotments were bought out without the patient's knowledge.
Okay, so the
So there's
caregiver's
no
going and getting the
correct,
cannabis, but not giving it to the actual patient.
correct,
Wow.
exactly. And this was sad. So again,
Yes.
that's why I kind of felt where I'm a person with a disability myself. I'm a cardholder myself. I only want the best for my patients and my clients as well. So I'm going to ensure that my patients and clients have everything that they're entitled to.
So, it's not only sad, Benjamin, it sounds to me to be criminal.
Hmm.
And I'm just saying that
It is
because,
criminal.
right? Because you're taking advantage of
Hmm.
someone, and cannabis at
Correct.
this point is still a cash-based business, right? So this is not like
Exactly.
you're using someone's insurance, you're taking someone's cash and
Hmm.
going and
Exactly.
using it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's really frustrating. I mean, people with disabilities have endured a lot of abuses over the years. I mean, even our home care program services is, under tremendous. headache right
Scrutiny.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. So that's plain. That's one thing that we have to worry about is trying to have the right caregiver for our home. The same person, are they going to start taking advantage of having that ability to go by on our behalf even further?
Absolutely.
Um, yes, there's certain avenues to complain and so forth, but a lot of people are just don't have other options. They're basically forced to deal with the type of help that they have because they have no one else to reach out to or to seek help from anyone else. So
Absolutely.
that's exactly what we're actually established. Owned and
And
operated
that
by
is
people with
excellent.
disabilities for people with disabilities.
I love it.
So,
I love it because I love the advocacy that you're doing there. And you do some
mhm.
other really, really cool advocacy that I want to kind of get into. So you
Okay.
grew out of a space where caregivers, weren't necessarily some caregivers. We ain't going to say all caregivers are bad, but
Mhm.
some were.
Right.
And so it emerged a need that you could kind of fill that gap. And
Correct.
help individuals not only have reliable people to serve as
Mhm.
caregivers for them, but you also do some education in that space too, correct?
Correct. Well, in the education, it's been a while since I've actually taught, but
Hmm.
we do speak on, of course, the cannabis program. We do teach in regards as far as helping patients get started. As a patient and licensed card holder, you are allowed to grow your own plants as well.
Yes, you are. Let's talk about that.
Yes, yes,
You're
an
able to
awesome privilege.
grow your own plants as a
Yes,
medicinal.
right,
And I know that's something
correct.
we talk about all the time, right, Benjamin? Because I
Hmm.
think that people often think, okay, I've got my card now. I'm going to go straight to the
Hmm.
dispensary and pay these
Right,
sometimes very lofty prices
correct.
for the plant
Even
that you can
with like the
grow.
same. Correct. Now, see, and this is what's really threw me about the program is you're allowed, if you are a card holder, you're not paying the same tax rate. You're not in the same tax bracket as the recreational. In addition, there's some small discounts for people that are on low income, uh,
Okay.
which is, I believe, 10%, which isn't really a lot, but it's something. Um, 10%, give or
Okay.
take. Um, and some dispensaries don't even offer it, but
Wow.
it's really sad that like individuals that want to try to afford this program can't afford their medicines because like, even with that discount, it's still unaffordable. People with disabilities and a lot of low income individuals are on low income as that their funds are already allocated and secured for that, their rent or food or whatever, electricity. So now they're going out of pocket just so they can afford their medications because it's not covered under insurance.
Exactly. And none of the program is covered under insurance,
None, nothing.
not
And
even
this is
the
why we were
certification
also
fees.
established to help alleviate some of those headaches. We help patients get their cards that can't afford it.
Hmm.
Um, if they need help obtaining medications, we'll look into their records and see how their allotments are and see how we can accommodate and making sure that they have the medications that they need.
Okay. Okay. So I definitely want to talk more about, the helping people get their cards and the allotments. We're going to take
Mhm.
a quick break and come back
Okay.
on in about 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, I want to get into definitely the card, how
No
people
problem.
can use, and how people
Okay.
grow. Okay.
Okay.
All
Great.
right. All right. I'll see you on the other side of this, Mr.
Thanks.
Fonseca.
Talk to you soon.
I'm missing, I'm missing all those kisses. Baby, bring those lips to me. I miss it already.
WIFTVPM.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the green side of things. It's your man, Sadiq.
And Cassiopeia.
And we need you to like,
Comment
and share
that thing
every Tuesday and Thursday from 1
to 3 p.m. on
What's in it for the Black People Media.
What's up, good people?
Y'all go accept my request on the page. So
Why?
I can do the
Why would we do that? Why would we do that?
I'm trying to do the survey.
Why would we let you in? Why would we let you on the... You talking about the Iswiz book club page? No, why would
we're going to let you in, Ron. You need to read. I'm with that. I'm definitely put you on.
Somebody please let Ron in the Iswiz. Is it? I thought it was a public page.
I don't know. I don't run it.
I don't know who runs it. You got to talk to Shannon and Robin and...
You say what?
Y'all group private like it's something special or something.
First of all, it is something special.
Ass.
Okay?
There's something special. Okay,
you know what I'm saying?
And you gonna talk it again. Don't get no punishment again now.
Right. They already came in there like, look at her being nice to Ron today. It wasn't gonna last.
You always mess.
I think Adrian came in like, for now, like just for a little while.
Just for a little while.
Just for a little while. Just for a little while. Somebody let that man in the page. Somebody let that man in the page, Robin. Please let him in.
I said what I said. Herb and 2, right here on What's in It for the Black People Media.
Loving you has always been easy because it's true. Someone would have told me you would come along to reveal my soul, cause I was done with love, my heart had grown cold. You had good energy, exactly what I needed. You walked in my life and placed the joy where it was needed. Not a mirage, what I feel for you. Put that on God, girl, I'm loving you. Said it's easy. It's easy to love. Easy to love. Said it's easy. It's easy to love. Easy to love. Oh yeah. Loving you has always been easy cause you're beautiful. Loving you has always been wonderful. More than you'll ever know. We got good chemistry, go together like love says. Passion and care, we show one another tops all the rest. The feelings I have for you, I ain't felt in so long. What we share together, baby, the bond is so strong. It's no facade of what I feel for you. Put that on God, I got love for you. Yeah.
Hey friends, welcome back on this side of the break. We had a whole switcheroo. So welcome again to Inhale, Exhale. I am your health homegirl, Dr. Tanksley.
And I'm Danny Time.
Danny Time in the building, looking good, y'all. She in money green, she looking good.
Thank you.
Yes. So we have our guest with us this evening, and Mr. Benjamin Fonseca. And we are talking, tripping? That's why you shouldn't have gum in your mouth. I'm sorry. Look, I started tripping on my tongue and my gum and everything else fell apart. But thank you guys for joining us. I see you all in the chat. I see you all tagging folks. So thank you. Tag your friends. Definitely tag them on this half of the segment because we're about to get and dig deep into medicinal cannabis. You ready, Danny?
I'm ready.
Danny's ready. She want to learn something, Benjamin. So what are we going to? So on this side, Benjamin, you were kind of going into the part about, having the medicinal cannabis and how you and your team advocates for patients to make sure that they get medication. I know that there are a lot of other individuals who may have inflammatory disorders, autoimmune conditions. That is something that is so prevalent in the minority community, and and we named a couple of them earlier. Things like lupus and multiple sclerosis and juvenile rheumatoid arthritis or even adult rheumatoid arthritis. But and there's so many more. I want to kind of get into some of the things that you use medicinally, or how you, even as you consumption ways that you consume, just different things that may have been you found to be helpful for you over time.
Not a problem. I actually I'm a flower guy, plain and
Okay.
simple. I mean, I'm old school. A lot of the new things out today are great for those individuals that need a little bit extra help. The concentrates, the different types of concentrates that are available. Then again, there's, the edibles that are for those that are unable to smoke. We actually have, there's suppositories available now to go the other way.
Absolutely. There's
That don't
patches. You
want
said
to
the
eat
other way.
patches. Yeah, patches. There's so many different avenues. But I'm strictly a flower guy. Call me old school.
No, I'm not gonna call you old school. I'm gonna throw it out there and say you actually judged a cannabis cup before.
Correct. I've been to a few cannabis cups. I've been a judge a few times at a couple in locations, trying out different flowers, different devices, and so forth. So.
So I think that means that you are a credible expert in the flower.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
So when
A little
you
bit.
talk about edibles, or you talk about concentrates, can you kind of break that down for our audience and tell them what does that even mean?
Edibles and concentrates. Edibles are essentially, as the word states, is an edible, something that you can eat. So essentially, what you're doing is with edibles, you can use a variety of different medicated concentrated butters or oils.
Right.
Okay,
And so when
so
we
your
say
butters,
concentrated, it means that
it,
the
it's
amount of
infused.
cannabis, right, and the amount of
Yeah,
cannabis in there is a higher
correct.
amount than what, per capita, essentially, right, than what you might get in a flower.
Correct. It's basically a more potent form.
So,
Because
like, how
again,
much
as we've
flour would
discussed,
make a oil? Like, how much flour would you use to make an oil or
so
so?
essentially, it's the rule of thumb is typically um, an ounce per pound.
Mm,
An ounce per pound of butter,
okay.
or however, I'm not quite sure how it is for oils because it's a different thing. But I just remember that as being it's an ounce per pound of butter.
Okay. So
Okay,
you use 1 ounce
and
of flour and you can get about a
correct.
pound of butter.
So people, that want it not as strong, they can use as little as a quarter, 7 grams of flour
Right.
versus as opposed to that of the 28 grams, which is 1 full ounce of flour.
Okay. But that's really important, because I think a lot of times that one of the
Mhm,
things we hear a lot with edibles, which I'm gonna let you go back into, but with
mhm.
edibles, it's like, oh, don't eat the whole thing, right?
Right.
And I
But
and
again,
I think that's
that
because of the
applies to your own
concentrate.
individual tolerances. And that's
Hmm.
such a different game because, and it's the edible industry it's just crazy right now.
Okay.
There's just so many inconsistencies as far as dosages is concerned, and
Hmm.
that's why I kind of basically stayed away from a lot of edibles because again, you don't know what you're really getting
Hmm.
unless you're making it yourself. That's been my big thing, trying to teach people to make your own so you can know what you're putting it into. Because when you're buying something, let's say from a dispensary or some other alternative market, you don't know. You're going by their word of mouth or their
Third
their word.
party tested
Yeah,
product,
correct.
right?
I mean, it's just like, oh, try this one, whatever. But it's just, you can have all the ingredients in the world, like they have in the dispensaries right now. But again, you just really don't know.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I've been strictly a flower guy. I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm doing. I'll dabble in some edibles, but I prefer more food,
Hmm.
than actual pastries and candies and so forth.
Hmm.
Um,
So that kind of
but
goes to
again,
some of the things that were getting, I guess, a bit trendy before the
correct,
pandemic hit, like infused dinners.
Yes. Yes.
correct,
Have you
correct.
been one of
Yes.
those?
I have. I had infused jerk. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh! I for my birthday before the before the pandemic, I went to an infused dinner as well too, and it was amazing. It was some of the best sleep that I got that evening ever. I think there's a lot. Well, I'm actually doing a talk for the Chicago Normal 420 Health Fair, and we're going to be talking about cannabis and women's health. And one of the things that cannabis is really good for is things like libido. Right. And I've heard that a ton of times. People say, they use cannabis and then they feel more in the mood. Their libido's higher. Right. So there's a lot of things that it can help with. But I'm with you. I think the savory and fused foods hit me a little better than the sugars, especially. And I'm putting my doctor hat back on, my Western medicine doctor hat. Especially in an individual who may have diabetes or some other reason, obesity or some other reason that sugar should be, fairly avoided, right? If you're eating a lot, even though it's your medication, if you're eating like a ton of gummies with a lot of sugar, then that's not going to be very helpful for the other conditions that you're treating. And so one of the things we were going to get to is cannabis lifestyle, but keep going, Benjamin. I want you to talk more about so you said an ounce of flour will make about a pound of butter. You can use the butters to then go and make other edible products and things like that.
Yes.
You're a flour guy. So tell me about what you do with flour. You grow it, right?
Yeah, I grow.
Uh-oh. Something happened with your sound. Something's going on with your sound.
Can you hear me now?
You sound like you're in an echo chamber.
Oh, sorry. Is it better?
It's okay. No, it's not. But you know what? If you want to leave out and come back in.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay. I'm going to let you do some adjustments. All right. So while Benjamin's getting adjusted, I'm going to just tell you I am talking about cannabis. On Tuesday, 420 Health Fair is put on by Chicago Normal, which is an organization that advocates for marijuana laws in various different around the country. But there's a Chicago chapter as well. And I did a conversation with them about cannabis and pediatrics, which was something that I think Benjamin kind of mentioned. He was a young cannabis patient, and that's one of the things that people get really concerned about is the development and things as children get older. There's actually a law here in Illinois now called Ashley's Law that allows for children who use cannabis medicinally, because right now you can get it for ADHD, for autism, for different seizure disorders for children. Absolutely. And so it allows for them to be able to medicate at school, which is something Benjamin was also mentioning before that wasn't around when he was a young cannabis patient. Benjamin, say something now.
Is it working out or are we good?
It's a little bit better. But we can work with it. Don't worry about it. We can work with it. But I wanted to, let's hop back in real quick and get to, because there's about, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 minutes left in our conversation. So I do want to make sure that time flies. I told you this goes by so fast. We need to do more hours because we could have essentially taught everything from the endocannabinoid system all the way through, right? But I do want to get into growing, because I do think that that's an extremely unique aspect of the medicinal cannabis program that's so underutilized. So many people think like, oh, I can't grow. Oh, I don't have a green thumb or any of those kind of things. And I know that you have some beautiful ladies that you grow.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So essentially with every patient that has a card, you're allowed 5 plants per household. So again, if you have more than one card holder in the apartment or wherever your residence, is only still 5 plants. So just because you have more than one card, but your 5 plants can produce quite a good amount if you know what you're doing. Your gallons is what's really key. The bigger the gallon, the bigger the plant. In a sense. They do allow for outdoor growing as well, as long as it's in an enclosed lot, security area.
So you can grow outdoors is
Correct.
what you just
Yeah.
said. Yeah, as long
But
as
again,
it's
I'm not
not
a fan of
visible.
the weather here in Illinois is just a little scary for me to try to dabble with outdoors, so I'm more of an indoor person.
Yeah. And a lot of people do grow more indoor than outdoor because our
Correct.
weather is kind of funky.
Correct. Yeah.
So what got you into growing? Well, I would imagine definitely, it allows for you to have your medication for a cheaper price and things like that. But did you grow? Were you a gardener before?
I'm not gonna lie. It's not really at a cheaper price. I think
Okay.
it's more satisfactory. If you actually tally up everything that goes into growing, it's actually almost comparable to what you're actually typically paying at dispensaries.
Okay.
Very close to it. But again, it depends on how well you want to get into your medications, your nutrients, and so forth. The electricity, that is almost doubled. So when you're growing your own, so it's expensive. I mean, it's not cheaper, but yeah, once the end result, you get your own. It's fine. You're not paying anyone else but yourself.
Yeah.
That's yours. That's your satisfaction that you created.
The other thing that I think you get a satisfaction from as well, too. So I'm a gardener, slash, I call myself a farmer. But I like to grow vegetables and herbs and things like that. And one of the things that I actually have a sign in my garden that says, "This is my therapy."
Okay.
And that's I think there's actually evidence data. Y'all know I'm a data study, evidence-based medicine kind of person. And there is a lot of evidence around growing plants and having live plants around you that benefits you, benefits your mood, right? So it can help with things like depression and, that people talk about talking to their plants and things like that. That's real.
Yeah, I mean, because they're living creatures, they're living beings themselves. I mean, they breathe and eat everything just like us, so being surrounded by plants is kind of essential. That's what it feeds us oxygen, it gives us energies. Doing the physical work of gardening or planting, that's a great physical therapy as well. Individuals like myself with RA and so forth need that. You don't use it, you lose it type thing, So yeah, great physical therapy. Again, you're stretching down to reach your soil and mix it around with your hands and stuff. It's an awesome experience. Very rewarding if you do everything right. But it comes with its challenges too. I mean, nothing is ever perfect. No gardener has the most perfect item. They have their hiccups and their headaches along the way sometimes. You got to worry about things like molds and insects and pests and stuff, just like other fruits and vegetables can create over time as well. So it's a lot to do. You got a lot to worry about when you're growing different mediums. You have your soils, you have your water base or hydroponics, you have your aeroponics as well. So there's just so many different avenues.
Yeah. So with your organization, let's say that I grow, right? And I've got my grow. How can I interact with your organization?
So essentially, you can always reach us out on Facebook. That's our biggest outlet is Facebook, of course. Allied Access Foundation. We are working on our website right now. You can just reach out to us on Facebook, and we're more than happy to help with whatever it is you guys may need, growing questions, anything on as far as becoming a patient for our program. Or just signing up for services. There's a lot of people that don't know the Social Security processes of applying and appealing Social Security decisions. We also help with, your Medicare and Medicaid appeals as well. Many insurances are being denying many type of procedures and DME equipment and so forth. So that's essentially where we have stepped up to the plate, help or advocate for these individuals that have no abilities to properly advocate for themselves.
Yeah. So you guys are very comprehensive services for individuals with disabilities and especially those that are seeking more knowledge in the medicinal cannabis space. You also
we're just more cannabis friendly, essentially, is what we are.
Yeah.
Cannabis and friendly or not-for-profit organization here in Illinois.
And one of the things I think you guys do that I love is you reach out and build relationships with cannabis friendly practices, right?
Correct.
So that you can find, because as we had mentioned at the top of this show, there, sometimes the limiting factor can be finding a physician or a practice that is, that is cannabis friendly.
That is extremely it. That's you hit it right on the nail. A lot of physicians are basically being prohibited from being able to sign off and recommend, and this is what I have to reiterate, that this is a recommendation type program. This isn't a prescription at all. Again, it's just based on what you feel your body is in need for. Our bodies do create endocannabinoids, so it's just sometimes our bodies are just lacking that little extra bit. Just the same as steroids. Our body produces our own natural steroids as well.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we just don't produce enough to get us to get up and walk or do whatever it is to do. So again, we're just all about trying to help people make the right decisions on which way they want to go. If you want to continue on, the regular pharmaceutical path, that's totally fine. You want to try alternative means, we're more than happy to help you, educate you on that as well.
Yeah, I just want to give you the FYI that your sound came back in pretty nicely there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, it did.
Oh, great.
Good.
No, not sorry. Thank you. Awesome.
I just want to ask a quick question before we get out of here. I don't know if you guys talked about this, but I know everybody have their own personal experiences with cannabis, but can you talk about the health benefits and the side effects? What is it scientifically good for?
Everybody's different. Again, I stress it a lot. Everybody's different. The psychoactive aspect of it.
That usually comes more from
I've been
your
a
higher
patient for so many
THCs,
years,
right?
so I don't have the same symptoms as everybody else may have. Once you've been medicating for something for so long, you do build tolerances. You do build, greater tolerances towards things. There's even medications where they just in the past, I was usually on infused Remicade, which is a high dose steroid, and just finally my body just totally rejected that. So the only thing that has been consistent in my life has always been cannabis. Cannabis flower in itself, it has so many different uses. For me, has helped with, again, nausea. There was a point in time where I was just a mere 40 pounds at mere 10 years of age, chest cavity showing and everything. That's what helped me obtain the appetite. With the appetite came more muscle, you can do a lot more. I've had complete, what is it called? Complete workup, I guess you could say. So all of my major joints have been replaced, and with the use of cannabis has actually helped me to accept a lot of the prosthetics that are actually currently in my body. A lot of doctors were a little hesitant, but I did not use pain medications after any of the surgeries, just strictly cannabis. I was not a fan of any type of the opioids, your tramadols, your morphines, that was the only thing I used was cannabis during the entire times. And I've had major cervical spinal fusion, wrist fusions, bilateral shoulder replacements, hips and knee replacements, complete. And used cannabis my entire time of rehabilitation.
So it's good for pain.
Yeah. So in
well.
Illinois, I was going to say in Illinois, there's 45 conditions, quote unquote, conditions that qualify. A lot of them do have to do with pain, inflammation, seizures, migraines, a lot of neurological disorders, because cannabis is helpful at rebuilding the nerve sheaths. As Benjamin mentioned, literally there's at one point when cannabis was last listed in the medical pharmacopoeia, basically like the all the drugs that we use in medicine, it was back in the 30s when it was taken out, and it was about 200 some odd conditions that cannabis was used for. cannabis has been used so much through time for endometriosis, for which is a pain condition that women get, a uterine condition. It's been used, actually, historically, they thought that your endogenous, the cannabis, the cannabinoids that you make in your body were to help with things like childbirth, right? With the pain that comes associated and in that, because there's a lot of, there's an endocannabinoid that we make, our bodies make itself, called anandamide, and that is very high in the uterus and it's very high during times of childbirth. And so there was always this thought that, you know, that system kicked in so that childbirth wasn't so detrimentally painful, and probably to help us forget that so we would continue to have kids. Because I don't know, you might be one and done if that system don't go kick in, right? Yes. But there's just so many different uses. I think one of the places that, you know, we don't have time in this conversation to talk about, but that we really need to you know, kind of explore more, is a lot of the research and things that has been done. So just to, you know, give a couple other things before, you know, for people who are maybe starting to engage or look into medicinal cannabis as an option for their therapy, is, you know, as Benjamin mentioned, the psychoactive component, right? That's the part that we think about when we think about, oh, I smoke cannabis and I get high, or I eat it and I feel high. That is mostly driven by the THC. So a lot of people will talk about CBD and the effects of the anti-inflammatory effects of that and those kind of things. And I know, Benjamin, I'd love to get your thought on that real quick before we do end this. But that is something that has been fairly controversial but very present in everything from your lotion to your shampoo to, you know, your gas, everything has got CBD in it. So what are your thoughts about that?
CBD, and that's I love that little topic, that between the differences, THC and CBD right there. They actually are the same things. They're all the same plant. The only thing is different is just with hemp, there's just no THC in it. It's just very, very minute traces. But they're all the same thing. It's just how they're grown. Some things that are high in THC, I'm a big fan of. The CBD, I am not. I will be honest, it's just something that, again, hemp it's such a versatile product, a plant that can be used so versatilely. You know, you can actually build whole infrastructures off of the hemp plant alone. Infrastructures. Absolutely. I'm not just talking about, no, we're talking about actual infrastructures with the hemp plant. But that's the big difference, is knowing what you're getting and knowing how do you really utilize it. But there's been a lot of misconceptions on the hemp and cannabis and all this other stuff. They're actually the same thing. There's not any difference. It's just a THC content.
Yeah. So I gotta give my thought, just because this is my soapbox. I totally agree with you, because one of the things that I tell people all the time is, so the beauty of cannabis as a medicine is that, you know, when we talk about Western, like traditional medicine and non-traditional medicine, the hallmark of non-traditional medicine is many of the medications that they use are not for one specific thing. Western medicine says, okay, your blood pressure is high, take this pill to lower your blood pressure. Your sugar is high, take this pill to lower your blood sugar. You know, it's very monotherapy, very monolithic. And that, in all honesty, is the base, most simple way to practice medicine in the world, right? Yeah. Everywhere else, we look at these products. When you look at, you know, African medicine and Indian medicine and Chinese medicine, they use products one product will affect every organ in your body. And that's, you know, that is the highest level of medication that you can provide, right? You call them like adaptogens and things like that. And cannabis fits in that realm where it can impact so many different things in your body. It actually creates a state of homeostasis, right, where your body is in balance. And when you begin, and my issue, this is my soapbox, I'm sorry, y'all, I know we're going over, but I got to say this, because what happens when you take the one piece out the plant and then began to say, here, just take this one piece for this, is you now make it basic. Right? That's what Western medicine want to do all the time, is make it basic. And it's like, that's not how this plant works. And so I tell people all the time, do you want the apple or do you want the apple juice? Because what medicinal cannabis, with all of its properties in it, all of its cannabinoids in it, it is providing effects for you that you can't pinpoint. This is lowering my blood pressure. This is doing this, because it's doing those things in synergy. They actually call that a phenomenon called the entourage effect. And it really just means like these things are working in concert on various different parts of your body at the same time. And no, we may not be able to, pull out individual parts at this moment, but they're all doing something different on different, in your body. And they're going to do that. I'm just going to say that because this is the way. I don't want to call people out their name. This is the way Western medicine makes money. They're going to pull out those individual pieces to try and market them to you in that way. But I agree with you, and every true endocannabinologist agrees with you that most medicine, when you're using medicinal cannabis, you 9 times out of 10 need a little THC in there as well too, for it to actually be the most effective for what you're trying to do, right?
Yes,
what you're trying
exactly.
to achieve. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a love and hate type relationship. Can't have one without the other.
You
basically.
can't. And I think that goes into the cannabis lifestyle, which I'm going to touch on just real briefly. I don't know if you want to jump in there and say anything about that, Benjamin, but I always, the other part about it is, you cannot be using medicinal cannabis thinking that you are going to achieve all of these things that you want to, and you still eating like
I mean, I still live life. I still, like I said, I use everything moderately, in moderation. But again, I just recently, for years I was against medications, but I just recently just started a new medication. Need a little extra help. So we're trying this out in conjunction with the cannabis, seeing how this goes and works. But yeah, I'm not saying that cannabis alone is, the savior or save all, but it does help a lot. It's helped a lot, especially in, my surgeries and the rehabilitation of myself as well over the years. So, but, be smart, listen to your doctors, have a plan with your doctors. Just don't go solely off medication. So.
Thank you. I think that's a great way to end that segment. I do have to say real quick, because I do have a buddy that owns a cannabis farm down in Minnesota. Actually, he's a friend of my sister's, but that's the shirt I'm wearing today in case anybody cares. It's called Uncle Funky's Farm, and Uncle Funky got some Uncle Funky products. So, on that note, but they're in Minnesota and you can't cross state lines, so follow the law, folks. And as Benjamin said, work with your providers, your physicians, talk to them, be open. But if cannabis is something that you've been looking to add to the medication that you're taking to help maybe decrease the doses, or at least get to a place where you can find some synergy and some overall, maybe symptom relief with things like you were saying, nausea or specific symptoms, then by all means, reach out. Reach out to the Allied Access Foundation on Facebook, and they'll have their website up soon, and we'll post that in the page. Danny, I know you were only with us for a couple minutes. I want you to close the show. I love y'all. Danny gonna close the show.
Well, you guys have a great week. Thank you so much, Benjamin. This was very informative for what I did catch. I apologize for being late. But all the deep breathers, have a good week. Inhale, exhale. No pun intended. I was getting ready to go there with the conversation. Well, have a good week.
420, right? We can inhale, exhale on 420, if nothing else. All right, y'all. Thank you, Benjamin. I look forward to having more conversations with you.
I would love to. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Stay
Bye-bye.
You're insecure, it's driving me crazy. I'm trying to get it and you keep on saying, you know my love is never enough. I put up with you for too long now.